If you're a parent, you know nobody can push your buttons like your children. But rather than fly off the handle, there are steps you can do to take care of your kids, give them the love and comfort they need, and keep yourself from going crazy. That's the message from parenting expert Bonnie Harris in her new book, When Your Kids Push Your Buttons and What You Can Do About It. Bonnie, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Al.
Thank you. What qualifies as a button?
Well, a button is a sore spot that we have in us that is wired to something old and deep. It's very sensitive, and when our kids push it, it hurts, and we don't want that to happen, and so we react.
Now, I know this is a generalization, but why are kids pushing buttons? Are they just looking for any kind of reaction or a specific reaction?
Kids push buttons because they're trying to tell us something, both about themselves and about us. And we have a choice. We can either pay attention to that, or we can react and try to get them to stop pushing those buttons. And when we do that, we go into what I call the road rage of parenting, which is when we lose control, authority goes out the window, we open our mouths, out come our mothers or our fathers, and we say those words we swore we would never say.
Like, don't make me stop this car.
Like, don't make me stop this car.
Exactly.
I was going to say that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you've got some tips on how to diffuse your anger, diffuse your buttons, as it were. You say raise your awareness. What do you mean by that?
Well, the first step in changing any habit, in breaking any habit, is to be aware of it. And what I try to help parents do in my book is to become aware of all of the stages of what happens when our buttons go off. The first thing you can start with is to be aware of what happens to you physically. Do your palms sweat? Does your stomach knot? Does your blood start to boil? I had a father once tell me that his ears got red and hot. And when that happens, that's your cue to start to diffuse and not react.
And so does the second step fall into that, breathe? You say breathe.
Breathing is like the simplest tool we have, but we dismiss it because we take it for granted. When our buttons get pushed, our emotions surge. And when that happens, we tend to hold our breath. And when we hold our breath, our bodies and our minds disconnect. And so that if we can stop and inhale and exhale very deeply, anywhere from 3 to 20 times, we can bring ourselves back into our bodies and ground ourselves so that we can think clearly.
And if you're doing this in front of your kids, they're probably wondering what's going on.
Yeah, but it's better than reacting.
But you throw them off, so that probably helps too.
That's exactly right. They're saying, what are you doing?
You also mentioned something that we are supposed to do in business, but we don't necessarily take this into our family, and that is the old mantra, don't take it personally.
This is the big one. And if I think that my child is out to get me, I'm taking it personally. If I think that everybody out there is looking at me and deciding I'm a bad parent because my child is acting up, I'm taking it personally. And I get all wrapped up in my own head, in my own self, what my child is doing to me, how my child is inconveniencing me. It's all about my agenda. And so I can't reach out then and see that my child has an agenda that's just as important to her as mine is to me.
Which is probably why they're pushing the buttons in the first place.
They're not getting their agenda met. So they're having a problem. And if instead of thinking my child is being a problem, I can switch my perception 180 degrees and think my child is having a problem, how can I help? The emotion that comes from that is compassion.
Which feeds right into the next point, which is detach and witness.
Detach does not mean being cold and uncaring, nor does it mean letting our children get away with it. What it does mean is being able to lift ourselves up even just a little bit from the situation so that we can be a little more objective and have a better sense, have a different perspective of the problem. And when we can do that, we can take our agenda, take our criticism, our judgments, all of that just out of the way, just put it aside so that I can connect with my child. And that's the most important thing, is to be able to connect. And that means to be able to see my child's point of view as well.
Well, there's a lot of good advice in the book. From having a 15-year-old to an 8-month-old, I got a lot of stuff in there, so I got a lot of buttons. Right. Bonnie Harris, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And you can find an excerpt from When Your Kids Push Your Buttons and what you can do about it on our website at today.msnbc.com.